Welcome to the Small Business Bootcamp Podcast, the show that gives lifetime solutions for your business and business solutions for your lifetime. I'm Corey Tucker. Today, we're talking about understanding and appreciating today's generation of employees. I have Megan and Jen back in the studio with us this week. How's everybody doing?
Great.
Good week.
Feeling refreshed. Yep.
That's it.
That's it.
That's it.
They're feeling great.
It's Tuesday.
It's Tuesday and summer camp starts a week from today. So that puts where we are. When this comes out, summer camp will already be in full swing, but we are in summer camp mode.
Definitely.
There's this. I'm curious to find out the energy in this space when summer camp starts.
Oh,
Totally different.
Oh,
Yeah.
The daytime buzz is buzzing.
It's buzzing. It's organized chaos. Sometimes a little more organized and sometimes a little more chaos.
Yeah.
Today, we're talking about appreciating and understanding today's generation of employees. But before we jump into that, let's talk about your first job. What was your first job?
Well, my first job that I kept for a period of time was a camp counselor. I was a camp counselor from the time I was 17 until I was about 22, which led into 21, 22, which led into working at the Y and kind of what got me to here. But the very, very first job I had was at the beach water park, which was the local water park for us. And I was the keyhole photo girl. And so that you'd come in and be like, can I take your photo? And then I'd make the little keyhole photos that you looked through. But I only had that job for about a month. And then I parted ways with it. I didn't really like it. I was a keyhole photo girl. And then I was a camp counselor for about 4 years.
What'd you learn in that first job?
The keyhole photo job, I figured that I realized I wasn't a salesperson. That one I definitely learned right away. And with camp, it formed so much of who I am now with the job that I have to how I learned about kids and kiddos that learn differently than other kids and how how to problem solve and communicate with your coworkers. I learned a lot from being a camp counselor. Jennifer, I'd love to hear what your first job was.
Well, I'm sure it will shock you to know that my first, it was an unofficial job, was coaching and doing choreography. And I was probably 13. I don't think I was getting paid for it. It was just something that helped me to offset the cost of my gymnastics tuition. Mm-hmm. I taught gymnastics for summer camps all the summers after I turned 13. My first real paying job besides coaching gymnastics was working in a lumber mill in my hometown.
Okay.
And it lasted a whopping 4 to 6 weeks. I had my steel-toed boots and I was running fishtail where you're throwing junk wood into a dryer. I managed to nearly get my toes cut off and I had a terrible shift. I learned that was not my path to employment. But when I was working with kids and when I was young, I knew that that's what I wanted to do. I had no idea what capacity, but I knew that I wanted to work with children. I felt like I connected with them. I learned a lot of patience and just empathy, I think. And it really set me on my path of where I am today.
Corey,
cool.
Corey, what was your first job?
So my first paying job, I was a ref for soccer, but that's not the real first job. The real first job, I was a server at Pizza Hut.
Okay.
And I loved it. So all these soccer parties would come in, their soccer party.
Like the old school Pizza Hut.
Exactly. It was the old school Pizza Hut where we made our own breadsticks. But I loved it because I got to interact with people. I got to hang out with sports folks and just come around moments that people are, having community together. So I learned a lot. And
I'm sure you enjoyed just talking to people and
no, not Corey.
Not Corey, yeah. I could see it. I could see it.
It was great.
How long were you there?
It was like a summer job. And I think it was like $1.13 an hour or something, it was
plus tip.
Right, exactly. It was something crazy, right? But it was good. It was a good experience. It made me realize that I needed to be around people and up and around and connecting with folks.
Yeah.
That's what I learned from that experience.
Cool.
All right. So let's jump right in.
Great topic today. This will be a fun topic.
Yeah, I think, we just came off of a boot camp in May. And I feel like every boot camp we hear gym owners, club owners, business owners talk about today's employees, and there's just this negative connotation of, you hear, oh, the millennials, oh, Gen Z, I cannot deal with these new employees. And we hear it over and over and over again. And I think in some ways, I feel like at Kids First, we have cracked the code a little bit. I mean, we can always be better, but I feel like we have some things that we can impart and help with. But I think the biggest thing is just understanding who they are and what makes them tick and how you can embrace them rather than fight it. And I think if we think that they're going to change, you're wrong. And so, we have a lot of different things. I know Jen has some stories and a totally different perspective really than I have, having seen this generation come up. Quite technically, I'm part of the millennial generation, so I definitely have a different perspective, but we're going to talk primarily about two generations. What we hear of is the millennials and Gen Z. So the millennials, you can read a lot of different things, but we're going to say roughly born between 1981 and 1996. And then Gen Z would be then roughly from 97 through 2012. And, there's a lot of characteristics to them. And I think just understanding what those are, and we're just going to kind of talk through those. And I really want to spend time talking about what Kids First what changes have we seen and made in our benefits, in our workplace, what we're offering to these employees, how we embrace them, and how we use their skills and talents rather than look at them as a negative.
For sure.
So, jumping right in, a lot of these are very similar, but millennial characteristics, they're tech savvy. We kind of all know this. They've got their phone in their hand. They're kind of the digital natives. They've grown up in this era of rapid technological advancement, right? So they're very comfortable with various digital tools, and they want the workplaces to embrace technology. And I think for some older generations of owners, that can be difficult.
Sure.
To, what's the right amount of technology? How do you use it? Is it communication? Is it learning tools? And just understanding what that looks like. They also want to embrace work-life balance. They've come up in a generation where that has been prioritized.
It sure
and
has.
They want their personal schedules to be taken into consideration. They want flexibility. And we're starting to see that, especially post-COVID with remote work, wanting flexible hours. So that can be difficult for an industry like ours, right? Where you have very set schedules when kids come for classes or when we have practices. And so how do we embrace that? What does that look like? They also want very meaningful work. They want to know that there's purpose and meaning to what they're doing. They want a company that has strong social responsibility, and they want a mission that's aligned with their values, and they want to contribute to a greater cause. They also want continuous learning. So they're very keen on personal and professional development. They value opportunities for learning, and they want a workplace that's going to value their growth and put emphasis on skill development. And then finally, they're collaborative and inclusive. So they want to be heard, they want to be valued, and they appreciate workplaces that will listen and foster creativity and innovation. So very similarly, Gen Z holds a lot of the same characteristics. Also digital natives, also value diversity and inclusion, but a couple other things. They have this entrepreneurial spirit. So I found this interesting that they are independent and resourceful, and they seek side hustles. So they value autonomy and the ability to make an impact, which I think sometimes we think the opposite, that they need to be handheld, but they actually want the autonomy. But you have to learn how to embrace that and what ways, what strengths they have and how can you give them that autonomy. They also want instant feedback. I think that we've all definitely seen that they've grown up in this age of social media and they're accustomed to that instant feedback, instant recognition, and they appreciate that regular feedback and getting validation for their contributions. So that's really the breakdown of kind of what makes them tick. And I think just understanding these differences and these generational preferences can really help us establish and kind of have a groundwork for how we tailor our workplace policies, our practices, and our culture to attract, engage, and retain the top employees that we want from this generation.
Yes. Can I jump in real quick?
Absolutely.
So all of those things are, I think we all across industries can recognize if we're hiring young people, whether it's Gen Z or millennials, we can see all of those characteristics. And I think while the Gen Zers they've been born into technology. So your millennials are more like the digital pioneers, where the Gen
they
Z
came into it. Yeah.
and now our Gen Zs don't know. They're much more used to a screen in their hand or to use a screen versus pen and paper. But in our industry, so I think their greatest strength is that they are technologically savvy. Their greatest weakness is verbal communication.
Yeah.
And in this industry, we are built on this foundation of communication with the students, with our coworkers, and then for the paying client who is the parent. And so we're trying to take this whole generation that they have been educated in a particular way and parented in a particular way that has great strengths. And we are trying to close the gap between that strength and the weakness, which is connect with people face to face. And I think that's probably where Kids First has been a step ahead. I think we've recognized these trends. And so I know you're going to get into some of the details of the things in place that Kids First has done, or how we've made some changes in the way that we onboard and appreciate our staff members. But I think a really important reality is that currently 38% of the global workforce is millennials and Gen Z. By 2030, it's estimated that a third of the U.S. workforce is Gen Z. And so we can complain about them. There's plenty to complain about, just like there's plenty to complain about my generation, which is Gen X, or your generation as a millennial. But the reality is, these are the people that are making the things happen on the floor in the gymnastics or the children's instructional service industry. So we have to first recognize it, embrace it, and then figure out what our jumping off point is. Recognize what our non-negotiables are, and then move forward in how we connect with them and give them the tools to be successful. Complaining is not a solution. And I think the sooner that a company recognizes that, the sooner you're ready for whatever that next step is with those really awesome teenagers that are out there.
Yeah. I always love when you say that complaining is not a solution. And that's what we hear, and I think it's not the solution. And one thing that I always hear Jen say during boot camp is that if they can't learn the way that we teach, then teach the way that they learn.
Right.
And I think that is completely applicable to this group of young people too in the workforce.
Right.
If what you're doing isn't attracting them, and it's not keeping them, and it's not engaging them, then you have to change it.
Right.
They're not going to be the ones to change. In fact, they're going to be the ones that can transform your business.
That's right.
But you have to embrace the power that they have and harness it.
Right.
And I think that's really important in today's workforce, and as you grow and scale, and if you want to attract what's out there.
Mm-hmm. And I think most people that are in this industry, whether it's swim or gymnastics or dance or cheerleading, started their business because they have this need to work with children. It is a life's calling. And we know as coaches and teachers and instructors that if we aren't making the impact that we want to make, we have to do it differently. Exactly the quote you just said. If they don't learn the way we teach, we have to teach the way we learn. But I don't know why that's so different for employees.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why we can, as business owners, say that that's what we need to do with these kids on the floor. But now we have these kids out on the floor trying to teach and coach, and we look at them completely different. Like now they're these professionals, which
Right.
they're not, and they should know how to do it. Well, we have to teach them we got to give them the tools to do that.
Right.
So I'll let you keep talking. You're hitting them all. You're hitting them all. I did want to point out, you said they like immediate feedback, and that's true. They like it for about 5 minutes.
Right.
They don't want the long-winded feedback. Give it to me quickly, and maybe even if it's in the form of a video,
Yeah.
that's better.
Yeah. And just to touch back quickly on what you were saying, I think we hear this, we've talked about this, I know you and I have, about how if people, even within our own company, we've had to really sit down with some of our department leaders and have this conversation. You spend the passion and the effort that you put into those athletes, into those kids and their growth and their learning, and trying so many different things and getting on their level and figuring out which right way to go and having those conversations. The same thing should happen for those employees.
Right.
You should be having that same passion for building and growing them as you do the kids.
Right.
And I think the person that embraces that builds a phenomenal culture. They build this staff that embraces change, this staff that wants to be a part of everything that's going on in your organization. They'll run through brick walls for you.
Right.
If you can embrace if you can embrace them.
Right. And I think it comes from a place of understanding and empathy. And I believe you're going to jump into some of that in just a second. But as we would empathize with the 13-year-old level 9 who's trying to get a flight series on the beam, and we can understand she's going through all these things at home and at school and has a heavy workload. It's no different than the employees that we're bringing in, whether they're 16 or we're even talking about our 20-year-olds.
Yeah.
They've got a lot on their plate, and we are asking them to put all that aside and forget about your learning style, your education background, your parent, the way you grew up and what's been going on in the world since you've been a child, and now come join our industry and our organization and do what we want. And do it quickly and do it well.
Yeah. So let's talk just quickly. I want to kind of shift gears. You mentioned they have a lot on their plate. Let's talk just for a minute about the challenges and pressures that these young people face. Because I think it's easy to look at it and be like, well, they have it easy, or they don't face the challenges that we face. I think they just face different challenges than we faced growing up. And so just quickly want to touch on a few things that are really the largest challenges and pressures for these millennials and Gen Z. First is student debt. We're seeing this more and more. Young people coming out facing substantial student loan debt, which can carry financial strain, and it really affects their ability to then save and invest and pursue other life goals, such as home ownership or, just investing for retirement. They're just not in the same financial place as people were 30, 40 years ago. And on that same note, housing affordability is becoming increasingly difficult. So between rent or buying property, it's challenging for them. And so it's causing them to either find work possibly that's a longer commute for them from your workplace, or they're in a crowded living situation because they can't afford to live on their own. So that's a challenge that's facing them. That work-life balance is a challenge for them because it's so ingrained in them to have that personal life and to do things with their friends. But we're in an industry that's known for long hours, demanding evening schedules, and young people struggle to prioritize their work and their friends and self-care and hobbies and relationships. And so you have to know how to have those conversations with them and be able to embrace that. As we know, this is a big one, but mental health struggles are they're plaguing our young people. So things like anxiety, depression, burnout, they're at an all-time high. So how do you embrace that? They also have this challenge uniquely of a lack of experience. So young people have lack of experience in the workplace, which then inhibits them from sometimes finding the right job. There's skepticism, there's bias. They struggle to be able to get the jobs without having the experience. And so the other thing, while technology is a strength for them, there's also this constant connectivity. There's reliance on technology, which can be overwhelming. I think technology is it's like their ground source, but it's also a huge source of overwhelm and a huge source of anxiety. And so having to always be available and responsive can create boundaries between work and home life that are hard.
Right.
And then, like I said, that financial instability. We've got businesses that potentially there's low wages, lack of benefits. It just creates financial instability for these young people who can struggle to save and cope with unexpected expenses. So just knowing and understanding some of the challenges that they're facing, I think allow you to create an approach in your business that will be supportive to what they're going through, maybe making sure that there's access to resources such as mental health services, financial counseling, and just continuing communication and dialogue with these young employees instead of just setting aside what they're facing and thinking that they can just come into work and all's okay.
Right. And I think back to what you said early, they want this connectivity. So they do connect digitally, but they do want to be part of something great and they want to make a difference. And they're looking, even if it's uncomfortable, I think they're looking for that social connection. And when you've got, a staff, like our Tumblebee staff, our preschool gymnastics has a staff of about 60 employees, and most of them are under the age of 20. And it's a really good place. If we have some facilitation of it, it's a great network for them. And so I think as we move into this conversation of staff appreciation, talking about how we have shifted since you and I have been in these chairs, and what has been an emphasis for us and how we've helped to kind of guide our department leaders, but also what is the purpose behind our why? Why do we find engaging and connecting with our staff and appreciating our staff so valuable? And at the end of the day, it's because we want to make a difference with our employees, just like we do our students, and we want to decrease our turnover. We want to have longevity in our employees. And so I think They do have a different kind of set of challenges, and we've all helped to create that for this generation. You know, my generation and even your generation has continued to create the problems of the current generation.
So let's talk for a minute about, well, maybe more than a minute. Let's talk about, you alluded to the changes that have maybe taken place since you and I stepped into office, which is also in that post-COVID world.
Sure.
You can talk about what the challenges were and how you faced it before, but we're now in this post-COVID world. All these young people went through something tremendously difficult and unique. And so let's jump into some of those changes that we have made in our kids' first employment experience as it relates to this generation.
There's so much, I'm not sure where to start, but even when we talk about our onboarding, that now we have recruited and vetted and interviewed. We know who we're hiring, and we're moving to that onboarding process. We have gotten rid of the 60-page handbook that we might sift through, and we have a digital version of the onboarding process. We do still want to have that human touch, so we make sure that we blend the human touch of our human resources and our department leadership with their onboarding training. So we use a digital version. And I would say that we've made an emphasis on those employees that are coming in to let them know that what we are going to do for them. It's not just come to Kids First where you can help make us a lot of money. That's not the message that we want. I don't think that's the message we ever sent.
Right.
But we want them to know. I think we have somewhere around 300 employees annually. And I think 45% of them are under the age of 18. And all of those who are under the age of 18 are face-to-face with students. So they're camp counselors, teachers, coaches. We want them to know, we know this is not your lifelong job. You are here for a short period of time, and we are going to build into you. And we're going to lay out for them what they get from being in this organization, how we can help them resume build, get leadership opportunities, learn about child development. And then we can also kind of figure out, navigate the strengths that they have for a particular department. If they have great, technology apps or tools that they're good at, that they enjoy. If they like making video content, we can do that in a particular department. And I think early on in that employment process, try to express that with them.
Yeah. And I think aside from what we can give to them, I think that we weave in very early on. I think that you've done a fantastic job with the level 2 trainings, weaving in how they're part of the bigger picture. Yeah. So obviously, yes, giving them what tools are we going to help give them for their life? And what are we going to build into them that's going to help them no matter whether they stay at Kids First or whether they're going to jump. This is a jumping point on to what's beyond, what's their big adult job. Right. But I think weaving into, that's our level 2 training here at Kids First, who we are, where we've been, what are you a part of?
Yep.
What are you a part of, and what's your impact going to be in whatever time frame that you're going to be here? And I think as we've seen, they want to know what they're a part of. They want to know what the mission and values are. They want to know what we're doing for the community. And I think putting that onto them also very early just builds in this sense of connectivity and really inclusiveness, and that you can be a part of something great, whether you're here 2 hours a week, whether you're here 30 hours a week. Right. You're a part of who we are, and we want you here.
I think that's a great point to make. I think when I'm sitting in the front of a room of 20, 30, 40 new hires for summer camp, and they still look at themselves as the kid. Mm-hmm. They're the teenager. And when you talk with them about, who are those people in your life, that teachers, coaches, mentors who have impacted you greatly in a positive way, and it causes them to deeply think, and who has impacted you in a negative way. And now you're that person. You are that mentor. You are that teacher. You're that person that is going to take a minute with this struggling 7-year-old in the middle of camp. I think to help them flip their mindset that, yes, at home, they're the teenager and the kid. Here at Kids First, they're the professional. They're the person that is making the difference. So yes, weaving that into their training specific to their department, but starting at the very beginning with our level 1 and 2 training, I think has really impacted our employees.
What else have we done at Kids First? How have we changed that employment experience to really embrace this young generation that we have?
I think you and I early on, we're a whole female executive office, and it was very important to you and I from the very beginning of our, in 2020 when We had not only were the young employees and students feeling that anxiety and depression and some mental uneasiness, but so were all of us.
Sure.
And so we instituted more opportunities for staff appreciation that came from the central office, not just specific to their department. So I do think, the efforts that we put forth on just recognizing the achievements of our employees or what value they bring, and, giving them snacks and little prizes.
Yes.
They love that stuff. We all love that stuff. This week, what is it? Aromatherapy candles and stress balls.
It's Mental Health Awareness Week.
Yeah.
And so that's twofold. I think embracing the mental health challenges that our young people are facing. We did begin to offer a couple years ago an employee assistance program that offers free mental health resources to them. And we try to make sure that they all know that that's available to them, certainly. But then the staff appreciation, I think, has been something that we didn't realize the impact that it was going to have on these young people. They get so excited when once a month for a week, Angel, our HR manager, has something set up, whether it be food, they love food,
They do love
or
food.
whether it's right now it's fidget toys and stress balls and aromatherapy candles and face masks, Play-Doh and whatever is going to help them in stress relief. And they love coming in and seeing what was created for them,
Right.
and what was put out there for them, just to say thank you for being an employee. And it doesn't cost a lot of money to do these small things. We do those once a month for our entire team. We do birthdays and anniversaries. Again, it's small, but it's just something to say thank you. And I think when they get it, they're like, wow, I didn't even realize they were going to give me something for my birthday or
recognize me.
Or recognize me for 1 year, of working here. And I think that appreciation then got taken a little bit of a step further. When Angel stepped into that office, she wanted to create an employee initiative where they would get recognition and that instant feedback. So she has twofold this kudos system where they can give out these kudo cards when you just see somebody that does a great job, that goes above and beyond. And then they just turn them in, and I think they get a $5 gift card.
Yep.
And then everyone that turns in those kudos cards gets entered for prizes at our Christmas parties.
Yes.
That right?
Yep.
This is new. It's all new this year.
It's going to be great.
It's going to be great though, but because it's just it's that quick instant feedback. You just thank you. Here's a kudos card. Awesome job. Turn that into Angel and get a gift card. And they're so appreciative.
Right.
And then on a bigger scale, we've instituted this First in Class award, which was really cool. We just finished up our first quarter, and each of our locations had a winner. And at Kids First, it was one of our team coaches, Ramaya, and the effort that went into making that presentation special.
Oh, yeah.
And her running through this tunnel of kids and confetti, and just, everybody in the gym was out there to praise her. And it wasn't a department leader. It was just a coach that makes a difference and goes above and beyond for these kids. And then to put a poster of her out at the front for the next quarter, for everyone to see her and recognize her.
Yep.
That's huge for this young generation. And it wasn't intentional that we picked somebody. Ramaya's in her 20s. Yep. We didn't seek out to pick somebody in that generation, but that tells you that this young generation makes a huge impact at Kids First.
Yes. And I think what was really great about that celebration day. So if you could have a visual, we have a very large gymnastics space of about 50,000 square feet. And so we had a line of recreational gymnasts, competitive gymnasts, boys team, girls team, department leaders, coaches from all across all departments, making, a tunnel for her to climb, to run through with some confetti, like you mentioned. But I think what was great is it was so rewarding for everybody who was out there. It wasn't just rewarding for Ramaya, who was being celebrated. It was all of us. We were all super excited that this person was getting recognized for just being a wonderful coach. And I think that's the energy that we've tried to bring to our staff. You also mentioned early on that, the work-life balance, and it is a hard job to work with kids all day, evenings, Saturdays, Sundays. We're asking a lot of our young people and our old people, but we're talking about the younger generation. We're asking them to work really hard. And sometimes they burn out easily. And so we do have to have those moments of celebration and just of rebooting. We try to make it as easy as we can for them to have flexibility in their off time with their hours. But it doesn't mean that you don't have to work hard when you're here. And I think that Kids First has done a really good job of managing and navigating all of that. Work really hard, commit to your schedule, take some time off when you need to, cover for the people that also need to take time off, and then come back and work hard some more. And I think finding a good balance for one's organization is incredibly important. What I don't want the message to be today is that you put aside all of your needs as a company because the generation is changing. I don't think that's the message at all. I think the message is this industry needs great people out on the floor connecting with our kids. And we've got to find the best of the best. And those at some point in time, it will be the majority of those instructors will be Gen Zs. We've got to understand how they tick, how they think, and what fills their cup. And then we may, as a company or as an owner of a company, have to be flexible with our own values and what we envisioned hard work to be. Hard work in my generation was you volunteered a lot of your time. You worked 60 or 70 hours a week. You didn't ask for anything in return, and you hoped one day you got a raise. That's not the generation that we have in front of us. And if we're waiting for the other to come back, we're going to be waiting for a long time, and our doors may close. So I think everything that you've talked about today is incredibly important for business owners to recognize and then be proactive on.
So let's shift our focus to what the strengths are of this generation. What positive contributions can they make to your organization? And what have we seen here at Kids First? So I think today's generation brings so many strengths and contributions. And I think if you can learn to harness those strengths and tap into that potential of these young people, they'll drive innovation, they'll be creative, and they'll bring positive change to your workplace. So some of these we've touched on, but I just want to kind of breeze through what are some of those strengths of these millennials and Gen Zers. As we know, and as we've talked about, they have this technological proficiency. So they have grown up as a digital native. They can easily adapt to new software, new tools, new platforms, and they can help in bringing other people along in that effort. So knowing where their digital skills can be increasingly important to your organization and how to harness those and use those. They're unafraid to think outside the box. They want to challenge traditional norms, and they come up with fresh ideas. So that creativity and innovation is a huge strength of these young people. They bring unique perspectives and experiences to the table. They foster creativity and empathy and understanding, and they embrace diversity and inclusion. So how can you use that within your organizational structure? They're very proactive in seeking out opportunities to take on leadership roles. I think if you can figure out in having that dialogue with those young people, what drives them, it'll have your organization making a positive impact if you can harness those strengths and figure out how each person fits into that puzzle. They're adaptable. They want to collaborate, and they're skilled collaborators and team players. They're quick to learn new skills, and they can embrace change, and they see it as an opportunity for growth. So how do you fit that into your model? And they're resilient. I think that we know that they've faced some very unique challenges and uncertainties, and these young people have been able to bounce back, and they adapt to adversity and they persevere. So those are just some of the strengths and contributions that they can bring. So I want to talk quickly about how can organizations embrace these young people in their organization. So let's just jump into it. I mean, how do you embrace the young people within your organization and bring positive change? I
think, we could do a whole separate podcast on hiring. I think once you've hired these great people, you have to know where they fit. What is it you're looking for them to do? They do like collaboration and inclusivity, but they have to have some teaching on how to do that. We live in a world where I'm right and you're wrong, and we can't get past that. So we have to teach them how to disagree and have conversations that are difficult. And then we have to teach them how to problem solve together. And if you have a great idea, and I think it's a terrible idea, but we're grouped up on it, I still have to be able to support your idea and help you move forward. Those are the things that I think as an organization, we want to create opportunities for collaboration. I think that this generation is super inclusive, and that is a really great strength. I think that while they are unafraid in how they want to move forward, I think they do fear making mistakes because their mistakes are caught on video and exploited to the whole world. So I think we have to create an environment where making mistakes is is applauded.
It's part of the culture.
It's part of the culture, and they understand the difference between mistakes and irresponsibility. But if we can help them to understand, if you are trying to drive something forward and you misstep, we're going to back you right there. We'll help you regroup. You're going to have to clean it up, and then let's try something else or try it again differently. So in short, what I think is create opportunities for collaboration and teamwork, and create an environment or a culture that celebrates change and mistakes, and be very, very clear in what your culture is. Be very clear on the non-negotiables. We have our non-negotiables here. We will not bend because the generation is changing, but we will bend in how we go about achieving our high goal.
In matters of style,
swim with the current.
And in matters of principle,
stand like a rock.
Wow, there's some good nuggets today. There really is some good stuff in here. I'm trying to decide if this is just a one part or there's two parts, because it seems like you guys could go on and talk about this at another time.
I think we're both so passionate about it. Both, one, having had large staff that I think we're so proud of cultivating leaders. And then now sitting in the seats that we're in, I think we just embrace ourselves, and we get frustrated when people aren't embracing this, right? Like when people are not building into their young people. It's part of who we are at Kids First, and is building the next generation. It's where kids love to learn. And we want to say it's where adults love to learn too. And I think it's just something that we're very passionate about here. Yeah. We could talk a long time about it.
Yeah. And I think, I've been here for 26 years, and my role has changed, and my role in the Tumblebee department, I think my mind shifted. I always used to get frustrated when parents would tell me I would understand more when I had kids of my own. But when my children entered the workforce, which was Tumblebees, I had this really clear understanding of what I had missed, what I was doing wrong, because I was putting this really huge responsibility on the shoulders of these teenagers, and they weren't equipped for it. I hadn't taught them how to communicate in difficult situations, or they had no idea of all of the tasks or the responsibilities. I think if we can look at not just the generation in front of us, but the responsibilities as a whole, I think you're right. I think it's a matter of, we want to see them learn. We want to see them thrive, just like we do children that we're teaching and coaching.
And I think that's why we see people stay past what they thought they would stay for.
Sure.
You see the people that just can't let go of Kids First, and they want to stay involved in some nugget in some way. And we see that from people that were here through college that then stick around for one night a week or 2 nights a week, or they just keep coming back to help wherever they can when we have an event or something. It's because of all those things. It's because of what we built into them, and it is their standard for employment. And we say that. We say that we want Kids First to be your standard of employment. And when they go on to other things, I think we all hope that they go on to pursue and find a job that places the value on them that we do, and that they see the difference when they are somewhere that doesn't.
Right.
And I think that because of how we embrace those young people and what we build into them, it's why they keep coming back.
Yeah.
Oh, this has been great. Can you give us 3 key takeaways, Megan?
Yeah, I think, first, just understand and build empathy for the young people of today. I think they're not going anywhere, and we have to learn how to embrace their characteristics and understand what makes them tick, and understand how they feel appreciated in the workplace. So embracing and respecting the challenges that they're facing, and develop a multi-pronged approach to address the mental health struggles, give them financial resources, and continue communication and dialogue with them to know how they can be a part of the big picture. And shift your focus to their strengths and the positive contributions and how it can drive your business forward. I just encourage each person today to embrace the change and continue learning and adapting to meet the needs of these future generations.
Well, that's our goal here at the Small Business Bootcamp Podcast: lifetime solutions for your business solutions for your lifetime. Incidentally, registration is now open for bootcamp number 73.
Sure is.
And that's the fall of 2024. What's the dates on that? Do you know those?
It's November 14th through the 18th. Spots are limited, so if you'd like to check out more or register, visit www.metzgerbootcamp.com. Until next time, stay positive and keep moving forward.